Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So a lot of you have been asking me to talk about how I got into ballroom dancing in the first place and what my competition life was like before I even started Dancing with the Stars. So I thought I would start a series about it, all about my early days competing, starting from the beginning, with me competing in the preteen junior category, which was all the way back in the 90s. I was competing in a division called Pro-Am. And don't you worry, my new YouTube friends, thanks to the original dance mom herself, none other than my mother, Cheryl Burke, I have collected plenty of old footage, so get ready. Basically, I started dance when I was a little kid, taking ballet classes from ages 4 through about 10 years old, along with a few other girls in the same age group as well. You know, long story short, I literally grew out of my pink ballet tights, and to be honest, it was really boring for me, so I just lost interest and stopped when I was around 10. And to be clear, this is really no disrespect or me throwing shade to the ballet community, which I absolutely respect tremendously on a whole nother level. However, since I already had curves and went through puberty at age 9, yes, I got my period when I was only 9 years old, I felt like it was time for me to hang up my ballet slippers and just move on. I remember my parents were always trying to find activities that we could just do as a family, you know, to the point where we were trying everything such as tennis, horseback riding, golf. I mean, nothing ever really stuck, unfortunately, or just happened to be like our thing. But I can tell you this, you know, my mom has always dreamed of dancing growing up, but unfortunately, you know, she was raised in a very poor province called Nueva Ecija, and she couldn't afford to dance and barely could afford food and shelter, to be honest. So when I was around 11, you know, my parents started taking ballroom dance classes at our local dance studio called Imperial Dance Club, which is in the Bay Area specifically, where we're from, and really in just like Redwood City, California. I was constantly asked by both my stepdad and mom, almost on a daily annoying basis, if I'd want to take some group classes at Imperial. And in my head, I thought ballroom dancing was only for older people, so, you know, I must have rejected them, I'd say maybe 100 times, not even exaggerating. One day, my mom forced me to go to a local ballroom dance competition in San Francisco called the International Grand Ball. At first, all I saw was exactly how I envisioned a ballroom dance competition would be like. A bunch of senior citizens wearing beautiful ball gowns, tons of makeup while forcing their poor husbands, who looked miserable by the way, to dance with them. After a few hours went by of me just being bored out of my mind at this dance competition, which was held in the San Francisco Airport Marriott Hotel, the preteen amateur Latin dance competition was about to start, and little did I know that this very moment was going to completely change my perception of what ballroom dancing is really all about. So as I was leaving the ballroom to use the restroom for the probably 20th time at that point, just out of boredom, I walked by and I witnessed kids my age warming up on the sidelines, and I couldn't help but notice, you know, their gorgeous rhinestone handmade dance costumes, their flawless airbrushed makeup that had looked like it was obviously professionally done, fake lashes, shiny hair, which they wore back, you know, in that sleek, perfect bun that you can practically see your reflection if you were to look at yourself from the top of their little heads, as well as their beautifully golden tan skin. Ugh, as if it was yesterday. Seeing these kids who were, you know, my age warming up and dancing around in their little Latin heels, and what really sold me and put that nail in the coffin was seeing these girls dance with their cute dance partners. I mean, clearly my hormones were raging, even at 11. As I continued my trip back to the bathroom for the 20th time, as I said, I was thinking to myself that, you know, you couldn't pay me to go back to Menlo Park Academy of Dance, which is where I did ballet. And so, you know, as grateful as I am to Roseanne, my first ballet teacher, you know, I got back into the ballroom, and the preteen Latin was seconds away from basically me hearing those 8 bars of Carlos Santana, cha-cha-cha, vibrating through the ballroom and into my body and hips. I was sold. You know, you did not have to beg me to take a dance lesson any longer. Not only was I ready and anxious to get my, you know, feet wet and into that Imperial dance studio that I told my mom I was never gonna ever step foot in, I just wanted to start as soon as possible and get me a private lesson stat. So this is how I started in a nutshell. And after taking my first few lessons, I decided that I wanted to compete and was recommended by my instructor at the time to compete with him at first, until I was good enough to find myself a dance partner and to compete with my teacher, which is what Pro-Am is all about. It's basically, when a teacher competes and competes with their partner or student, which would have been me. And this is very similar, like what you guys see on Dancing with the Stars, by the way. So, I am dancing with the amateur, which is the celebrity. Make sense? Good. Okay. The funny thing is that competing in the Pro-Am division at 11, though, isn't really common, and it's very rarely, did I ever have any competition, I guess, because like preteens my age, they would never do anything like this. I mean, the majority of competitors in the Pro-Am divisions are mainly women, at the very least in their 30s, but most commonly done with women in their 40s to 60s, like my mom's age. So you'll be seeing like all these women dancing with their teachers or men dancing with their girl teachers. And professional teachers can range anywhere from 20s to 40s to 60s. Ballroom dancing, especially in the US, wasn't really well known back then, especially, back in the day when I was only 11. I'm sure that most people would agree with me that ballroom dancing was not, past tense, necessarily labeled as a cool thing to do, especially amongst teenagers. But to put this into perspective for you all, the best ballroom dancers at that time were either from Russia, England, Italy, or somewhere from Europe. So a lot of kids my age who showed promise would either move to Europe to train or spend their summers living in England for months at a time, training with the best coaches and champions of the ballroom world. But since I was just starting, I had to, pull back the reins. And before I could even think about stepping foot onto a dance floor with these little champs in the making, I would like to take you all down memory lane and start with my very first Pro-Am teacher, Mr. Rex Lewis. One of 3 local dance studio owners from Imperial Dance Club and located in the Bay Area, as I had mentioned earlier. Rex was definitely at least a few decades, you guys, my senior, and he taught me steps that really focused on the international ballroom dance styles from the official technique book, and started me off in the bronze category, where anyone would start off, which is just basically where beginners start learning basic ballroom steps. Some of you guys may recognize these styles from what you have seen us dance on Dancing with the Stars, but let me refresh your memories and start with telling you all what the 5 international style Latin dances are. So we've got the first Latin dance, which is the cha-cha-cha, then the samba, rumba, paso doble, and last but not least, we end with the jive, which is brutal. But once I was able to accomplish learning the bronze curriculum for the Latin dances, Rex later introduced me to the international standard dances. These dances, the ones where you see us wear the long, elegant, flowy gowns, and where you hear our head judge, Mr. Len Goodman himself, say, or more like complain to us about not breaking ballroom hold. So this is ballroom hold. As for the guy, it's this way. We must be stuck together, and sometimes it's great, and most of the time it's not, depending on who your partner is. Anyway, so the 5 international standard dances are the slow waltz, the tango, not to be mistaken for the Argentine tango. We got the slow foxtrot, the Viennese waltz, last but not least, again, something quick and tiring, the quick step. There you have it. These are all 10 of both the international Latin and standard dances that I was first taught by my very first dance teacher, Rex Lewis, who, by the way, is from England, so he obviously had that, proper English accent, much like Len Goodman. And behind all of that, though, he had all the knowledge I needed to pass the bronze level exams. Yes, we have to take exams in each level, which include open bronze, silver, open silver, gold, open gold. Basically, I had a long way to go before I could even think about finding myself a cute partner who was more my age, and most importantly, a partner that can dance. There are other styles that you also see us dance on Dancing with the Stars as well, such as like the American Rhythm category and American Smooth categories. I decided to, for me, focus mainly on the International Latin category, since this was my ticket into traveling to Europe to train with the best of the best. As I expressed earlier, but just to recap and review, Rex was definitely more like 40 years my senior, you guys. However, the experience he had competing worldwide and knowing the Latin and ballroom technique book definitely came in handy, so thank you, Rex, for starting me off on the right foot. But between me and you guys, my YouTuber friends and family, as a preteen who was only 11 years old at the time, I was totally embarrassed, maybe a little creeped out at first, to be dancing with someone who literally looked like my grandfather. So I'm so sorry, Rex. Doubt you're watching, but if you are, I love you. And to put this all into perspective to all of my subscribers watching this right now, let me repeat myself when I say I was only 11, okay? Anyway, cut to Tony Delgado, my second dance teacher, who, of course, my dance mom, my mother, and as she would put it, my mentor, Burke, also decided to take lessons with Tony as well. My mom started taking ballroom seriously and decided to enter into the competition circuit and still competes to this day, which I'm very proud to, witness, in the Pro-Am senior division with her teacher David Weiss in the American Smooth style. However, since this was supposed to be a family sport, I don't know if you remember, but she first started out competing with her husband, my stepfather, the one and only sweetest man in the world, Robert Wolf, who is a dentist by day and who became the cutest ballroom dancer by night. However, as time went by and we all got exposed to the Pro-Am world, my mom decided to lovingly dump her original partner, since, as she puts it, became way too advanced for dad and needed someone like her teacher to compete with who was more at her level. Sorry, teachers. So this led to my poor dad getting gently kicked to the curb by none other than his wife. And so after that was settled, little did my mom know that Bob wasn't just going to hang up his shiny dance shoes yet. He was going to compete with none other than Tony Delgado's gorgeous wife, Dana. And since both of my parents are around the same age group, they actually ended up competing against each other, which was very entertaining, and it was awesome just to witness as a spectator those moments. Since then, though, my dad has officially decided to hang up his competitive dance shoes, but Robert Wolf has been known to dust his dance shoes off for very special occasions, and loves to dance with people like me, on my 18th birthday, which you may have seen, or my wedding. Anyway, Tony Delgado basically became a teacher that I learned, other different styles from. It's always a good sign just to let you guys know when your teacher is actively competing in the professional circuit, because after all, it was refreshing just to be able to dance with someone that was just younger and that was in great shape, agile, than as opposed to someone like Rex. Here I am, a teenage girl going through so much just change naturally, and I just preferred dancing and competing with someone like Tony, for instance. Up next, yes, I went through quite a few teachers like I did once I started dancing with my amateur dance partners, but more to come on this, so make sure to hit that bell you see below and subscribe to my channel so that you can please just get notified, because I don't want you to miss a story. I'm telling you, my life is a soap opera, and you definitely don't want to miss this. Anyway, the other owner and partner to Rex Lewis of Imperial Dance Studio was my next dance teacher, Stefan Crawl, and his wife Denise Jourdain Crawl, who also owned Imperial Dance Club. They were a couple, they were married, and they were 10 Dance United States finalists, which is very impressive when holding a title like that, which means that you have to be incredibly skilled and committed to becoming just the best in both the Latin and standard divisions, which I, listed earlier in this video of how many dances that is. And Stefan was from Germany, and he was definitely someone who was still very active and well known in the ballroom industry, along with his wife Denise. They both are actually now competition owners of very popular competitions in the Bay, as well as world-class judges who not only judge throughout the US but all over the world as international adjudicators as well. So anyway, enough of their bio. If they're watching, they'll be very happy that I know this stuff. But basically, Stefan and I, competed Pro-Am and in the Latin circuit, and he also taught me the rest of the curriculum and helped me pass my exams in the silver and gold levels, which was very exciting back then. Once I passed gold, then I would move on to the very last level, which was open gold, where I was able to really learn intricate steps and not just stick to basics. And just this type of choreography was something that I was just dreaming of doing one day. And finally I got there thanks to Stefan Crawl. And when I say open gold, what that means is basically you're dancing side by side and you're not stuck in your teacher's arms and just like hanging on him. You're actually like moving and you can express your body and you're free. But anyway, so now onto my favorite teacher as far as the pro-am circuit goes, Matthew Roman, a dance teacher who only taught International Latin. Some teachers, you guys, teach all styles, which I personally think is bullshit and a way to just con your students, because at the end of the day, what you are saying is that you are basically just an expert in all styles of ballroom dance, which over maybe like 20 of them, that's crazy, which may translate into just hard cash momentarily until your student competes and doesn't get the result that she or he wants or is looking for. Because at the end of the day, we all know that when you say you're an expert in everything, it mostly means that at best you're mediocre. Anyway, thanks for letting me vent. And back to my favorite teacher, Matthew Roman, who, as we say, taught as an independent teacher, which means he had the freedom to teach anywhere and from any studio as long as he paid rent, which mainly means in our industry that you are good enough to not have to belong just to one studio, where they make a good chunk of your hourly rate and commission, basically, from each class and privates that the studio books for you. Normally, teachers who are not independent have less experience, just in general, as teachers, and mostly all haven't really competed at that professional level. Anyway, so back to Matthew, once again, who was an independent teacher, young and in his prime, an amazingly talented up-and-coming professional Latin competitor, decided at the time to teach a couple of days a week at our local dance studio, Imperial Dance Club. And as soon as he made that decision, Matthew was easily just fully booked by students wanting to desperately take lessons from him. He also weirdly reminded me of a young version of my real dad, Steve, which clearly I've got daddy issues. So anyway, more on him later, which you wouldn't want to miss. So make sure you please subscribe below, because this, my friend, is only the beginning of the hundreds of stories I have yet to share. Anyway, as a teacher and a person, I truly appreciated and respected Matthew's professionalism, especially since his style of teaching was less about gossiping and chit-chatting, you know who you are, and more about sharing his knowledge and his teachings of the International Latin style technique, which was fascinating to learn, since I remember Matthew being obsessed with none other than the godfather of International Latin dance, Walter Laird. Now, Walter unfortunately has passed away for some time now, but he was for sure and still is a dance god and for sure a dance genius. So much so that any world champion who is alive to this day will agree with me. Cut to, Matthew ended up becoming basically the only Latin teacher I learned from, because what I had found out was that everyone has opinions. And as you know, and in ballroom, everyone has different styles and beliefs as well. And if you have multiple dance teachers who are all teaching you, for example, the same exact style, which would be, let's say, the Latin style, they're all teaching you different techniques, and you end up just doing yourself a disservice and wasting your money and your time as well as your teacher's time, especially someone of Matthew's caliber, which he at one point had to sit me down to have a serious talk on, what my goals were. And, long story short, to choose who I wanted to learn from, so that I stopped wasting, his time, other people's time, my mother's money. Obviously I chose Matthew, and so we competed pro-am in the junior category, and surprise, surprise, so did my mother. We both danced pro-am with Matthew for almost a year before it was finally ready for me to spread my dancing wings and find me a good dance partner. Of course, I had expectations of who this would be and preferred him to be around my age, young enough to compete in the youth and under 21 Latin categories. Anyway, at that time, Matthew competed professionally worldwide and did so with his insanely beautiful and just as talented partner, aka my dance god of the 90s, Christine Belanger. Clearly, I looked up to Christine and just admired her talent, as well as obsessively dissect and study her dance moves until I was able to somehow believe I looked like her when I danced. I didn't. However, this wasn't the first time I discovered Christine and became secretly obsessed with her every move, but I knew her from when I first started and attended my very first dance competition, the International Grand Ball, that I had mentioned earlier. I just can never forget Christine that night competing with her student in the Pro-Am Junior Division with a handsome young fella who was about 4 to 5 years older than me, and his name was David Bruckner. So in my mind, from that first night I ever stepped foot into an airport Marriott while watching a bunch of glittery and tanned people dancing around in fancy costumes for the first time, I saw Christine and David perform as well. So when I saw them again a few months later at another competition in the Bay Area called the Autumn Classic, I was convinced that I had finally found my match. However, at that time, I seemed to be the only one who knew that this was going to be a match made in rhinestone and spray tan heaven. I'll never forget it, but after going to a few local dance competitions during the first 2 years of the start of my ballroom career, I remember always watching Christine just dance full freaking out with her student David Bruckner, just killing it every single time they stepped foot onto that dance floor. I became just so in awe of just their dancing that I for sure creeped them out with how obsessed I actually was, that they must have thought I was some kind of like weird, shy weirdo. I said weird already, but quiet and shy weirdo, barely, like 12 years old at that time, following them around the ballroom, praying to the dance gods that this tall, dark, he's not really dark, he's white, but fake tanned, handsome young man David would be my partner one day. Little did I know about the world of manifestation, ladies and gentlemen, but clearly it worked out, and cut to, David Bruckner became my first ever real dance partner. But more to come on this, so I suggest you hit that bell button right now. Anyway, Christine also became our mentor as well for like around 4 to 5 years, and I can't wait for you guys to hear about this part of my teenage life, traveling the world and competing at only 13 years old. So make sure you all come back please to my channel and comment below if you'd like to hear more of my competition dance days coming to your living rooms or lazy boys soon near you. Supposed to say, but whatever. Anyway, before I let you go, let me rewind my story of the Pro-Am dance competition chapter that I am nearly done telling. Then there was Jonathan Roberts, aka one of my Dancing with the Stars colleagues and part of the OG gang. But before Dancing with the Stars, let's step back in time to around a decade or so before Dancing with the Stars, which started in 2005. Jonathan came into my life during the time I was dancing with Matthew Roman back in 1995. Who believed that I should continue learning other styles of dance. And my mom also told me not to just limit myself to one style, especially since I was only 12 years old at that time. So after bitching, of course, and moaning and complaining, since I only wanted to focus on Latin with Matthew, and I had promised I was going to do that, I told my mom I'd only do this if she could find me a younger teacher who specializes in international standard, and please, nobody over the age of 30. God, I was such a pain in the ass, but hey, if there is anyone who can define the word persistent, Sherry Burke's face would pop up first, and as you can probably guess, my mother found the perfect match for me. Drum roll, please. Jonathan Roberts. I have to admit, Jonathan is one of the sweetest men I have ever met to date, and he was and is such an awesome teacher who has the patience of a god, especially back then with a young girl like me going through some major teenage angst at that time. Jonathan and I competed in the junior Pro-Am division, and I found out was also best friends with my dream dance partner at that time, David Bruckner. The ballroom world is clearly a small one where everyone knows of everyone, which can either work for your benefit or just bite you in the ass. Which one was it for yours truly? Well, as always, you will have to hit that bell looking thing right here on the screen below, subscribe to my channel, like this video, and most importantly, please comment below and let me know if you'd like to hear more of my competitive ballroom dance days / general hospital, because guys, if you do, you are definitely in for one emotional roller coaster ride of a lifetime. The start of my not so glamorous competitive ballroom dance career, starting from when I turned the big 13. This is why I feel like I have lived like a cat with 9 freaking lives, because I was 13 basically going on 30. No freaking joke, guys. All right, so there you have it. Part 1 of my competitive ballroom dancing career story. So we can check this off the list, and I hope this was informative for you guys, but I also know that it was a mouthful, for me at least, so feel free to leave questions in the comments below if there's anything you want to know more about the competitive ballroom world, especially in the Pro-Am division. You know, this was sort of just a little introduction and sneak peek into my dancing career before Dancing with the Stars, of course, but in my next videos, I'll start going into all the craziness, and I say craziness and I mean it, on and off the ballroom floor as I started getting older and just deeper into the competition world, which I have to admit isn't so glamorous as it looks. So don't let those rhinestones and fake lashes fool you, okay? And just a reminder, since I don't think I have mentioned this yet, please make sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss more of my competition series. As always, sending you all so much love and light. Goodbye. Thanks so much, guys, for watching a small part of my life uncensored. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel for new videos every single week, and don't forget to tell me what videos you want to see on my channel in the comments below. Sending you all so much love and light. Bye.